Welcome to the podcast of the Prison Officers Association, Britain's largest professional trade union for staff working in prisons and correctional centres, public and private mental health services trust providers, and immigration services, with nearly 35,000 members. In this episode, we look at the results of the union's annual membership survey. This captures the views from the union's frontline members and asks the questions that HMPPS don't seem to want to know the answers to. Mark Fairhurst, National Chair of the POA. We're here to talk about the members' survey. And the survey this year generated quite a good response, over 1,600 responses from members, which is not bad, more than 5% of the union's membership. I suppose the first place to start is, what's the point of doing the survey? What's its value to the NEC and the union as a whole?
So we have conference policy that dictates that no POA member should take part in the HMPPS People Survey, which is an annual survey. And the reason for that is, historically, they have used the results in that survey to base their recommendations to the pay review body on. And it's been detrimental to our members. So just to give you an example of why we don't want people to fill that in, they have decided that because of the results of the survey over the past few years, that pay is no longer a major contributor as to why staff are leaving the prison service. Whereas when we conduct our survey, pay is one of the main reasons. And the reason for that is because their survey includes non-operational staff and the entire Ministry of Justice. So they will use that against POA members to say to the pay review body, well, everybody's happy with their pay, because if they weren't happy, it wouldn't be one of the 5 main contributors as to why staff leave the service. So it gets used against POA members consistently, and it has done over the years, things like that. Now, they're telling us that they can separate operational from non-operational staff, and they are absolutely desperate for us to encourage people to fill in their survey, because the results from operational staff are so poor, so few people take part in it, that it's embarrassing for them. And we have consistently said to them, we will encourage people to take part in that survey if you give us a separate section just for operational staff grades 2 to 5, which is the majority of our members. Just give us a separate section in your people survey where we can ask relevant questions. And they consistently refuse to do that. So we decided, well, in opposition and in competition to your survey, we're going to actually launch our own with the sorts of questions that they refuse to ask. And it's now come to light that they are now going to alter the survey for next year. And they've sent us the questions they're going to remove. And all the questions they're going to remove are the questions that we would want contained within their survey. So the really awkward questions they don't want to ask. That's why we launched ours, because we asked those questions and they don't really like the answers. Well, ours is an honest survey.
It's the unvarnished truth, isn't it? Direct from the members. So as well as pay showing very strongly in the POA survey, what are the other things that are the genuine views of members but uncomfortable reading for HMPPS?
Yeah, I'll go through the headlines. This survey for us is really important because we base our submissions to the pay review body on the results of this survey. So obviously we couldn't do written submissions based on it because we launched it a bit later and the pay review body was a bit earlier than usual. So what we did do is we brought out the results in our oral submissions, which was really useful. And the sort of things that come out make uncomfortable reading for the employer because, as you say, this is from the front line and it's all based on fact. So what are the key findings? The key findings are, when you look at workplace morale, I mean, only 18% of people who replied in our survey felt valued by their employer for the work they do. And 72% said that morale was poor at their prison. That is absolutely damning for our employer, that people don't feel valued and morale is really poor. Over half of our respondents reported being stressed multiple times a week at work. And over 70% said that because of all those working conditions, that their mental health is not taken seriously. 60% more concerningly reported being assaulted at work, and 70% had faced verbal abuse. So a little snapshot on how stressful, violent and threatening our workplace is. And that's just for starters. It gets worse. And these are the sort of things that the employer doesn't ask in their survey. They don't ask about morale. Don't ask if people have been assaulted. And these are the things we want included in any future survey if they want us to take part. What they will say is this is a civil service survey and we've got no control over a specific section for operational staff because it includes the entire Ministry of Justice. Well, most of the Ministry of Justice are office bound in comfortable air-conditioned conditions with nice, comfy staff facilities. It goes on, career development. Most people, over 50%, are dissatisfied with the quality of training they receive. And just 44% of respondents believe that there was career development opportunities. Is it any wonder that people leave? I mean, when it comes to staff facilities, they don't believe that there's any staff facilities at all. When we ask things like, do you think you have enough staff to run a regime? Only 10% of our respondents believe that they had enough staff in their prisons to run a proper regime. Over 80% didn't believe there was enough activity spaces for prisoners. And over 80% agreed that their prison need to be modernised. So that tells you the state of the working conditions that we are forced to endure because we're not working in modern facilities. But when it comes to management, it's really damning. Only about half was satisfied with their immediate line manager. And just 18% of our respondents trusted senior managers. 80% believe senior management teams prioritise prisoner regime above their safety. That is absolutely damning.
I suppose we should allow a pause to allow that message to sink into any listeners who are representing or from the management. Great. What happens next? As we head into the new year, we've got the survey from the union, which fills in the gaps and the bias, if you like, in the HMPPS survey. We've got union conference policy. How do the next few months play forward in terms of using the data from the member survey to get a better deal for those members?
Well, we await the pay review body recommendations and what that pay award is going to look like. And then obviously for next year, we've got now this to help us with written submissions because it is so damning. And then we can publicise the results of this and get it out on social media and put press releases out on how staff are feeling in the service. So it's about highlighting to the public how bad things are. And this is what makes me laugh when our employer uses their survey against us, especially when it comes to pay. Pay is no longer a driver, they say, why people leave. Well, listen to this. 88% of respondents felt their salary was too low for the risk and responsibility involved. And 90% considered the retirement age of 67 and 68, which is state pension age, too high. The sort of question that never gets asked on the People survey. So it is extremely damning. And I just sum it up by saying this. What our survey highlights is that there is deep dissatisfaction amongst prison staff when it comes to pay, working conditions, safety, and management support. Morale is low and stress is widespread throughout the entire estate, and everybody feels undervalued and unsafe. Now, if that's not a red flag to our employer on how to change things, give people decent pay rises, and if they want us to take part in their survey, give us our specific section, which is a bespoke section with relevant questions, the sort of questions that they don't want the answers to. If they don't want to do that, then we're going to continue not to take part. It's disappointing for me that only 1,600 people in England and Wales bothered to reply to our survey. How do we improve it? Is it a case of they've read the circular from their branch committees, but they can't be bothered spending 10 minutes of their time filling it in because you can access it on your smartphone at home? Do they not know the survey exists because that information isn't getting sent out to them? What is it? I need to know. So anyone listening to this, if you didn't get the survey, if you didn't know about the survey, I need to know, because we're relying on your branch committees to get that information out there and encourage you to take part. And I'd love to see tens of thousands take part, because the more people that take part, the more damning the results are.
Yeah, and it is one of the ways in which individual members can directly contribute to the pay bargaining process and the process of improving terms and conditions.
It is. It's so important to us that they tell us how bad things are. I know how bad things are, but when you get it confirmed in writing, because survey results highlight what those working conditions and safety issues are, it's very damning for the employer, but it gives us impetus to say to the pay review body, look, your employer, our employer, is telling you, sitting in a room with you and saying, oh, everyone's happy with pay. Pay's no longer a driver while people leave. And yet most of the people who respond to us are saying, well, the pay's not enough. I know who I believe.
My thanks to National Chair Mark Fairhurst. As Mark said, if you didn't receive a copy of the survey form or didn't even know that the survey was taking place, do get in touch with your branch committee. As ever, you can visit poauk.org.uk for more information, including how to join the union should you not already be a member. Thanks for listening. We hope you've liked what you've heard and will join us for the next episode of the POA podcast. Thank you and goodbye.